Okay, it being 5 p.m., the regular council meeting of June 28, 2022 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Adams.
Present.
Mr. Groh is absent. Mr. Melvin.
Here.
Mr. Wendell.
Here.
Mr. Arabi. Here. Mr. Otam.
Here.
Mrs. Chasson.
Here.
Mr. Lorraine. President Chasson.
Thank you very much, ma'am. If everyone would please rise, our invocation will be led by Mr. Lorraine, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mrs. Chasson. Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, on behalf of the Parish Council, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. Members of the public wishing to address the council on the 6 p.m. public hearing or tonight's ordinances for ratification will have the opportunity, as we get to each agenda item, to speak to the council. If you would like to address the council for any of tonight's resolutions or that are on the agenda or any other topic, please fill out a blue public wishing to address the council form located by the entrance door to the rear of the room, and turn it into the council clerk prior to the public wishing to address the council section of the agenda. With that, we'll move into item A. Have a motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Arabi, to accept the minutes of the June 14, 2022 regular session. All in favor?
Hey,
Any
Mr.
opposed?
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
had my light lit.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify one thing, that I got the minutes right here verbatim of the last meeting concerning the hospital, the $25 million. I never stated that I was against a hospital. I'm against a temporary hospital. Let's spend the money wisely, not just go for temporary. And the reason why I'm not for a temporary hospital is because when you do something temporary, it usually becomes permanent, okay? And I will address that board later, but you ain't gonna find nothing in here. And I wish some of the people would quit hitting me on Facebook. I guess they like to hit me on Facebook that I said that I was against a hospital. I'm not against a hospital. I'm for making it better for the people that I represent. And I'm not just gonna let 8 people make that decision. And I will address that board as soon as they meet.
All righty, thank you, sir. I have a motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Arabi, to accept the minutes of the June 14, 2022. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Groh. 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence being Mr. Groh. All right, item B, Lafourche Outstanding Citizen. We have none.
I need to talk about something, about the governor.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that I want to thank.
Let's wait until to item H. Council reports.
Oh, okay.
All right, item C, state or federal legislative updates. Any state or federal legislators with anything to report? All right, we'll move on to item D, presentations and/or updates. We have none. Item E, legal advisory report. We have none there also. Moving into engineers and architects reports. Any engineers or architects with any reports? None. Public wishing to address the council. Ms. Carleen.
Ms. Heather Hendricks, if you'd come to the podium, Ms. Hendricks, state your name and address for the record. Please remember, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Heather Hendricks. My address is 1900. Push. There we go. Thank you, ma'am. My name is Heather Hendricks. My address is 1900 Bayou Road in Thibodaux, 70301. And I'll be mindful of my 3 minutes. I just wanted to introduce myself to the council. I know that I have met and introduced myself to many of you. Some of you, I have not had the opportunity to do that yet. I'm an assistant district attorney here in Lafourche Parish. I've been in that position for 8 years. I am a candidate for the position of judge in the 17th JDC, and I just wanted to come before y'all and present myself, let y'all know that I will be qualifying on the 20th. That seat is Division A, as I said, which is Judge LeBlanc. Judge LeBlanc has served our parish for many years and is now retiring. His last day will be September 30th. There, I'm assuming, will be an ad hoc taking his place between then and the election. I've been a lawyer for 12 years. I am 51 years old. Prior to being a lawyer for 12 years, I taught 8th grade in the public schools for 11 years. Let's address the elephant in the room, I don't sound like y'all. And the reason for that is that I was born and raised in Shreveport, Caddo Parish, but I haven't lived there since 1988 when I graduated from high school, but it's in the blood, and for some reason, I think it might even be getting stronger. As I say, I wasn't born in this parish, but I got here as quick as I could because I found out how fabulous it is, and there's no way that I'm leaving. I want to serve the people, and I want to tell y'all that the election is November 8th. Early voting is October 25th through November 1st. This is a parish-wide election from Fouchon to the St. John community and all parts in betweens to the left and to the right. But as I said earlier, I know many of you. I look forward on calling upon y'all so that we can discuss my qualifications further, and I thank the council for the time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody with any questions for Ms. Hendricks? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank y'all. Good luck.
Anything else, Ms. Carleen?
That's it, sir.
We'll move to item H, council reports, news, and announcements. Mr. Lorraine.
Thank you, man. First of all, I want to say that I want to thank Orman, Terry, and Boo Adams and Archie for coming to that groundbreaking ceremony with the governor. But before I get into that, I want to just let you know that by attending that, I learned a good bit of stuff. And what I mean by that is the elevated highway from Golden Meadow to Fouchon will be completed probably within the next 5 years. I learned that it was 25 years that they were doing this project, and the one that was taking the lead on that project was Ted Falgout. He was the director of the port at the time, but they formed the LA1 coalition, and the first director was Roy Francis, and then the second director is Henri Boulay. And let me tell you, if you deal with Henri, he's a motivator, a fighter, and he really gets it done, and this is a proven factor. The only thing that disappointed me by being over there was, you never you heard about Fouchon supplying 20% of all oil and gas in the United States, but you never hear nothing about the guy that found the Fouchon, A.O. Rapley. He was the founder of Port Fouchon, but you never hear anything. Probably if you're 50 years old on up, you might know him, and you might know him if a little bit younger than 50. But the ones that are from 50 on up to my age, remember him. He was a state senator. And he's the one that found and came up with that vision years ago. And they never said anything about that. Of course, they were talking about the two-lane bridge. And I'm telling you, from what I heard, Ted Falgout was the founder of that. And they formed that coalition. And then we had the parish president became a councilman. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, Mr. Chasson got up there and he said a few words, which was nice. And he came to introduce the governor. And he decided to say, I don't think he did on purpose. Nobody would say that. It was just a slip. He introduced the governor as the lieutenant governor. I don't think the governor liked that too much. He made a pretty good face. But you know what? He got up and he says, thank you, Archie Chasson. Thank you, Councilman Archie Chasson. So I didn't realize Archie became a councilman for a little while. And the governor spoke and everybody spoke. And it was a real nice fun. I had some good food. And everybody enjoyed themselves. The only thing, it was very hot. But also at the last meeting, Archie said I was going to be the first one there in the air-conditioned tent, and I wasn't the first one there. And it wasn't much of an air-conditioned tent. It was more of hot air than anything, but it was better than nothing. But anyway, that's what I've learned, and I really wanted to bring Rapley's name into this picture because he was the founder, and I was sitting with a guy that served on the Port Commission the first 3 terms, the first 3 years, the first 12 years, and didn't even mention his name. And that was Mr. Andrew Martin. And I think they should have named everybody from the beginning to the end because you got less than 100 that served on that board. Most of them are deceased. But don't forget, without Rapley's vision, it would have never happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lorraine. Mr. Otay.
I'll be quite more brief. First, the Game and Fish Commission, we continue to have issues, just for everyone to know, in terms of them meeting quorum. Has been like that since the day I became a councilman and before. The district attorney had made an opinion some years ago that no one that had a lease agreement with the commission could serve on the board. Of course, they're the ones that have the interest in serving on the board, so it makes it a little difficult. Anyway, the board is too big, and we need to revisit again if the administration can assist. Reggie was helping us with this. We need to reduce the number of members on that commission so we can start meeting a quorum. I don't think they've met since December or older, like at all this year, because they cannot get a quorum. So whatever we can do to help them with that. Second items, I would say I'm thankful today to report. I know Dylan and those guys saw it, but the state is actually doing routine maintenance in my district. It's the 3rd time in 6 years that I see them, so I'm happy that they're here doing a little maintenance along their state right-of-way. And I do continue to remind residents when they bring it up that, it's up to the parish president and his administration if they want to do any work and make agreements with the state to do their work. So I continue to remind people, and I'm thankful. Matter of fact, I sent a text message over the weekend letting someone know that I was quite thankful that the administration addressed the issues along the state highway. And of course, she responded saying, no, I didn't mean it like that. But anyway, the third thing is hydrants. We talked about them at the last meeting. The planning commission, as I understand, will be meeting again on June 30th, and I will be talking to them again about trying to change the code and the standard for the hydrant requirements. Because as y'all know, we continue to have variances. It gets politically a little touchy with the fire departments that don't want to be involved in this since we sent a letter to the administration years ago. So specifically, my thoughts are, I'll just mention again, is that when you have a new development, you should have stringent hydrant regulations. When it comes to family subdivisions and the like, it should be far more relaxed, in a nutshell. Fourth one, I'm just wondering if at the end of this meeting, if someone can give an update on redistricting. Terry and I were talking about that a few days ago. Haven't heard anything, wondering where we're at. And last but least, in case I forget later on, I'd like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Please don't drink and drive. Please buckle up. We're having abnormally high numbers of fatalities in our areas, especially along 308. So please be safe, but have a happy 4th. Thank you.
You have a response?
Mr. Chairman, real quick, when you say redistricting, you mean your local council district offices or national?
That's correct. I know the school board elections will be coming up. Is that all finalized? Where do we stand with that?
That's a y'all question. We don't get involved in that because it's not.
When I spoke to South Central Planning a little while back when he came to our meeting, I said, so are the districts changed? Are they in place? He said, theoretically, yes. Like then the change occurred, but so you don't have to wait until the next turnover is what I understood him to say, that the districts are redistricted already.
So, because I know that it's going to come up for elections with the school board. So my question is, I thought we were going to all get updated maps on what our new districts are going to be, so we will know.
The last I heard from the committee meetings that we were in, and then the council voted for map 3A or whatever it was, but I haven't heard anything since we adopted that. And from my understanding, we needed to adopt the 3A so that the school board could adopt the 3A, and then it could go to be redistricted. But I haven't heard anything since.
To be approved by other entities
Right.
along the states, and that's what I have not heard that approval. I'm just curious. All right, thank y'all. Maybe we can keep this.
You have something else, Ms. Melvin?
I just want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Mr. Araby.
I just want to let the general public know, I've been getting some calls about the community of Raceland, in between the bridges and things like that, about businesses shutting down and moving out and everything else. We are definitely working on trying to recruit some other businesses. I met with Miss Christie, our economic development lady, and we're working on trying to get some of this property that's dilapidated, whatever, cleaned up or do something and try to get some different businesses in here. It's going to be a long battle. It's going to be a hard battle, but we're not giving up. We want to try to see what we can do for our community, and we're working very hard at it. As far as for a grocery store, we are working on that also. I understand that the previous grocery store owner or person we had here, they have a lease for 3 more years, so I'm not for sure what's going to happen with that. But I know they got some people talking and negotiating and trying to see what they can do to try to bring another grocery store down here. So don't think that we are not definitely working on it. We are definitely working on trying to get some businesses back in our community. And also, I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July also.
Thank you, Mr. Araby. And also, in your district, Raceland, between the bridges, there is a community watch meeting that the council members, the sheriff's office, is going to be at July 7th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. at the Kingdom Impact Global Worship Center at 1949 Highway 182. So those people who are in that between the bridges, Raceland area, can go out there, attend, and have a voice in things that are going on in the community. Anybody else with anything? All right, I have a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones to deviate from the published agenda and move to item J, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item J, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. Motion by Mrs. Chasson, second by Mr. Adams to open the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item number 3, an ordinance providing a variance from the Lafourche Parish subdivision regulations, Chapter 22, Article 6, Division 5, Section 22-482-2, fire hydrants from the installation of a fire hydrant in the proposed Nangs Crib Division as not recommended by the Lafourche Parish Planning Commission at their May 26, 2022 meeting. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Adams. Any public comment? Second call for public. Yes, sir. Please remember to state your name and address for the record.
Alan Woodard, I'm a land surveyor from Walmart.
You have to come to the mic, sir. I'm sorry. No, you can hold. Just your name and address for the record, and we'll make sure that the microphone's picking you up.
Alan Woodard, professional land surveyor, 1902 Savannah Road, Houma, Louisiana.
Okay, sir.
Representing Roland Moen there and his wife in their quest to build a permanent home on the property in question, which is outside of the fire hydrant regulations. And the water main going down Highway 24 in the front of the property is too small. When he bought the land years ago, this was not an issue. It wasn't talked about, it wasn't mentioned. However, on a sister property, there was a house built, and there was, a variance granted, obviously, because they built the house. Anyway, Roland has the wherewithal to maintain a dry hydrant and to dredge from the St. Louis Canal into his property, have adequate depth and clearance. He could build a thing to a spec offered by the fire department or the parish engineer. He could maintain it. He has heavy equipment. He could move it if necessary. And they're just trying to, after the hurricane, their home was destroyed, they're trying to build a permanent home on land they own. And they have been owning. And that's his ancestral land. And it's really important that they stay there. And if y'all can help us, please do so.
All righty, sir. We thank you for that information. Any questions?
Don't,
Mr. Lorraine?
don't they have a bayou, a canal or something real close to that?
St. Louis Canal is right behind the house site.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any other public comment on item 3? Last and final call, public. All right, sir, we're going to take it to a vote if you want to have a seat.
I'll leave this paper here.
You need anything, Ms. Pat? Same one. Mr. Molinaire, please make sure to state your name and address for the record, sir.
Roland Molinaire, 156 Burglar Rose Highway, Grand Bois. I'm here, he was talking about what I'm looking at. And I've been having this land for 20 years, been trying to build a home right there, and I've spent all kind of money, and everything is a go, but I had to carve out that little that section that I want to put my home on, because if not, I'm going through a bank. I would be going through a bank. They would own all my property. So they just told me that if I could, just to carve out an area so I could build my place. Now I'm running into this fire hydrant deal that I'm hoping that something could happen, because everything is, you know, like I said, all the money that I spent, and I won't be able to build my house because of the fire hydrant when I got to buy it right behind where I want to build at.
Right.
So if y'all could find it in your heart, there's some kind of way that we could make something happen, because I've been back there for 5 generations, and I want to die there. So that's where I want to build.
Understandable. Any questions for Mr. Molinaire? Mr. Melvin?
I don't have a question for Mullen there, but I got a question to say that these variances come up with the fire hydrant. I've been seeing it for 6, 7 years, and I'm thinking, are we working on something? Is something going to happen? Because I hate to see people who are already paying millages, and you just luck of the draw where you live and you buy, and all of a sudden you're stuck with 7 to 10 grand able to pay a fire hydrant. Are we doing something? Or?
So I'm gonna say this is gonna come out somewhat as a disrespectful comment, but I don't mean it that way. But you guys as a council, if y'all want to change it, right? I have to abide, and the administration has to abide by what's in the code, right? So we've talked internally, and Dylan's in the process of putting together an engineer from each one of the major firms that develop property in the parish. And we're gonna do a comprehensive review of the subdivision laws to see what can change. Whether this is one of them, I think that's a conversation that has to happen with the fire chiefs and the water district, even though they're gonna say they're not in the business of fire protection, they're in the business of potable water. But we have to still have some confidence, and we're gonna lean on the fire chiefs for that, from their expertise, to see if we do change the fire hydrant rules, are we still able to provide fire protection? Because we don't want to do anything that's going to impact their ratings in the long run and stuff like that. So behind the scenes, yeah, we're slowly working on something, but it's going to be a multi probably 6-month year process to be able to work through this.
Okay, that's fine, just as long as we're working on something, because I want to help the gentleman. And I know Ms. Patton have been doing their job according to what the ordinances are, but again, and this is no offense to the administration, but we have presidents and governors, and they give the legislature things that they want to see passed too, so it's kind of a teamwork, So, again, I just want to make sure that we're helping the citizens in the long run, because ultimately that's why we sit in these chairs.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Otay?
Yeah, that's why, as y'all know, I've been anti-variant since day one for anything, because, once again, my neighbor had to spend $7,000 for a hydrant that's put on my property so he could build. It just is some craziness with it. But, obviously they're there for a reason, for insurance purposes. If you want to be able to insure your home, you have to have some fire protection, et cetera. My thoughts on all this, and it has bounced around, so it's, it was 1,000 feet, 500 feet, and then now when you install a hydrant, it has to be on a certain size line versus back in the day, it didn't have to be, yada, yada. Fact is, the fire department's gonna find a way to put it out. Talking about a remote area, it takes a while for the fire trucks to even get there. If there's a bayou, and if it's not wet, you'd probably be able to siphon. We almost all have LDH. Lockport even has an LDH on a hose reel now in the back of a truck. So almost all of us have LDHs, large diameter hose for long distances. So fact is, we're going to figure out a way to put it. But I'll reiterate, the fire departments don't want to be in the business of having to make a decision. He mentioned the draft site. So draft sites, like I've been doing this for over 30 years, they're really a joke, because they're not perpetual. Nobody goes out there and inspects them. They break, they get silted up. We just go straight to the bayou and grab the water. We don't need a dry hydrant, right? So I don't think, to me, dry hydrants almost don't even factor into the equation. But in a long story short, I will try to be the meeting on the 30th. My thoughts personally is that new developments should meet the hydrant regulations to a T. Anything outside of that needs to be on government's side if we want the hydrant or not. That's how I feel about it. I don't think any resident should be installing personally a hydrant like what happened to my neighbor on my property. So when he moves, he can't take it with him. But anyway, that's my 2 thoughts, my 2 cents. And I did sponsor it, but as y'all know, I'm anti-virus, but I am working to change the rule. Vote your heart. For me, I just can't do it because, for obvious reasons. But I certainly don't object to someone else and don't hold anyone else, you know, to, anyway, y'all know what I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr.
Same as I
Otan.
said last.
Thank you, Mr. Molina.
Thank y'all.
Any other public comment? Third and final call for public comment on item number 3. Any council discussion, item 3? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor of the variance, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 7 yeas, 1 nay being Mr. Otan, and 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Move on to item number 4, ordinance providing for a variance from Lafourche Parish subdivision regulations, Chapter 22, Article 6, Division 3, Section 22408F. Topography and arrangement from having to line up the cross streets in the proposed St. Mary's Place as recommended by the Lafourche Parish Planning Commission at their May 26, 2022 meeting. Motion by Mr. Melvin, second by Mr. Adams. Any public comment? Second call for public comment. Yes, ma'am, please make sure you state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Heather Klingman, Duplantis Design Group, Professional Corporation. I'm here on behalf of the developer, Duplantis Properties, and Dr. Camille Chasson. If y'all have any questions about the variances, I'll be more than happy to try my best to answer them.
Any questions for her on item 4?
And it's item 4 and 5, so,
This is the one that
That
had
I'm
the
here for.
pipeline issue on one of the cross streets, so it doesn't make.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody up to speed on it? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Any other
thank you.
public comment on item 4? Third and final call public, any council discussion? All in favor for the variance of item 4? Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item number 5, ordinance providing for a variance from Lafourche Parish subdivision regulations, Chapter 22, Article 6, Division 3, Section 22409B, blocks from exceeding the block length due to existing pipeline that crosses the subject property and the overhead energy transmission line in 100 feet wide servitude that crosses the property in the proposed St. Mary's Place as recommended by the Lafourche Parish Planning Commission at their May 26, 2022 meeting. Motion by Mr. Melvin, second by Mr. Lorraine. Any public comment? Second call for public comment on item 5. Third and final call for public comment. Any council discussion? Take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams to close public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item K, proposed ordinances. Mrs. Chasson, will you do the honors, please?
Okay, proposed ordinances. Number 6, proposed ordinance authorizing the parish of Lafourche, state of Louisiana, to proceed with a not-to-exceed $110 million financing through the Louisiana Local Government, Environmental Facilities, and Community Development Authority. Authorizing and ratifying the parish's request of the Louisiana Local Government, Environmental Facilities, and Community Development Authority to issue its revenue bonds. Authorizing the borrowing by the parish of the proceeds from the sale thereof to finance additional costs associated with the demolition of certain damaged property and the repairs, reconstruction, and renovation of other properties, including but not limited to repairs to pump stations and providing for the repayment of and security therefor. Approving and ratifying the terms of the sale of the bonds, authorizing the form and execution of the loan agreement, authorizing the form of and execution of an agreement for the purchase of the bonds and ancillary financing documents and otherwise provided with respect thereto, Mr. Adams for administration. Number 7, proposed ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-009 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to cover the cost for various projects and increase the budget for the communications department and Head Start, and authorizing the parish president to sign, to execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Jerry Jones for administration. Number 8, proposed ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-010 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, increasing the budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 Louisiana Local Government Assistance Program, LGAP, in the amount of $30,000, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jerry Jones for administration. Number 9, proposed ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-011 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to deobligate completed projects, cover estimated overages in the operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, and correct carry forward balances, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jerry Jones for administration.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move into item I, resolutions. Number 10, resolution appointing one member to Lafourche Parish Game and Fish Commission Board. Motion by Mr. Oten. Mr. Oten, who do you have?
Lewis, go.
Mr. Lewis goes, second by Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item number 11, resolution reappointing one member to Lafourche Fire Protection District Number 3 Board. Motion by Mr. Lorraine. Mr. Lorraine, who do you have?
Reggie Petrie.
Reggie Petrie. I got a second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item number 12, resolution reappointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 3 Board representing the town of Golden Meadow. Motion by Mr. Lorraine. Who do you have, Mr. Lorraine?
Troy Dufresne.
Troy Dufresne, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 13, resolution approving an addendum to the contract between Lafourche Parish Government and Mosquito Control of Lafourche LLC and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said addendum and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Ms. Chasson, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 14, resolution accepting a partial bid from Associated Pump and Supply for the procurement of 8 portable emergency backup pumps in the amount of $1,429,105 for the emergency backup pump project and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I noted to you guys in the summary last week, this is part of the $1.8 million we got from the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. The way we put together, the way GIS Engineering put together the bid package for us was that in case somebody bid on the pumps and couldn't meet the specifications, we could do a partial award. So if you notice, the next item is for the discharge piping. This one is for the pumping. That's why we had to split them into two. But overall, a good deal, and I think we're going to use the heck out of these things.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item number 15, resolution accepting a partial bid from Better Pumps and Solutions, LLC, for the procurement of pipe fittings, backup rings, and couplings in the amount of $465,745 for the emergency backup pump project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mrs. Chasson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 16, resolution approving amendment number 5 to the agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Environmental Safety and Health Consulting Services Incorporated, ES&H, to increase the contract price due to fluctuations in the Consumer Price Index, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 17, resolution accepting the low bid of CF's Welding Service and Custom Built Trainers Incorporated for the purchase of 6 equipment trailers in the amount of $144,415.50 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 18, resolution supporting the submission of a grant application to the Delta Regional Authority, DRA, for the replacement of several pumping station single-skin fuel tanks with new double-skin fuel tanks and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 19, resolution accepting the low bid of Old River of New Orleans LLC, doing business as Old River Truck Sales for the purchase of 2 flatbed equipment trailers in the amount of $115,428 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 20, resolution approving an agreement with Verizon Connect for GPS units and monitoring services and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item 21, resolution approving change order number 3 from the 4A Contracting Group LLC for the project titled Lockport Branch Library Entryway Project, increasing the contract price by $7,793 and adding 2 additional days to the contract time, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item M, discussion. Item 22, discussion regarding oaths of office and citizens' rights by Mr. Melvin. Mr. Melvin.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to state a few things, and if somebody wants to talk about it, that's fine. I find that, you know, the world and citizens, people, we've had our challenges with the hurricane, with just waking up every day. Sometimes people have their own challenges, and I find that government, especially federal government is what I'm referring to, but it still affects us here locally. It just seems to always get in the way. I find lately that every time they want to do something, especially if it has a little controversy, we lose some freedom and it costs money, and it's always based on a theory. And they'll call it something like a pretty name, and I don't think it has an intended effect in the long run because, again, it's all costing us more money than saving us. And I just find that, like I said, they can write a check overseas for $10 billion or $20 billion here and there, and we got to go tooth and nail to get FEMA money. Again, it's just kind of, why is that? I have my own theories, but so again, for the 4th of July, I just hope everybody reads the document. Again, the Constitution, I think it's important. And if people would just, in elected office, that's us and them, no matter where you are, even if you just take an oath, I don't care if you're taking an oath, no matter what you're doing, is to honor your oath, because we have documents in place that are a blueprint, and if we just follow them, a lot more things would work themselves out, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, which is what I see happening in Washington. And not that we can control it, but it's just, I think more people need to be aware of what's happening. And I'll just use one example that I don't think it's going to be on the books long. I hope it's not. Just an example, a red flag law, okay? Does anybody know how red flag laws works, or how they think they were telling you it's supposed to work? Does anybody know what red flags laws? Okay. I understand there's an intention in place for red flag law. I talked to someone who is an elected official in Lafourche, was at a lawyer convention in Florida, and they were questioning the constitutionality of some Louisiana laws that are already on the books that they thought were unconstitutional, referring to some other things, but if somebody doesn't like you and they call you in on a red flag, you automatically going to pretty much lose your due process. They're going to come get you, probably going to be over guns, just as an example. It's just one of many examples. And, you know, it's just like you lose your due process, you put away, and then, you know, you tooth and nail, and where's your rights? Out the window, because somebody might be mad at you. They might call something in. I just think in the long run, it can be abused, and I don't think it's American. That's just one example. Governments and insurance these days, they're in banking, they're in everything, healthcare, everything they shouldn't be in. The government was not designed to do that. They were designed to protect the borders, collect us some taxes, and let us enjoy some freedom. That's what we're here for, and that's why we're so fortunate to be born in this country. I just find that, again, the more they're doing up there, it's like citizens in other countries who weren't even citizens, so they want to vote here. And I'm not saying you cannot come and be a citizen, but I think things are a little different now, where Americans are going to start taking votes back to Cuba instead of vice versa, because that's just where I see it going. And look, as long as God is in heaven in his years, I have hope. It's just, it's becoming some challenges. The economy, we all know, is man-made, just like dollars. So if you artificially suppress something like the supply of gas and oil, the price is going to go to the moon. So it's not just other parts in the country that are paying a fortune for gas. We are too. But it's everything else. It's the lights. It's not just inflation. Governments keep spending money. They're not slowing down, but it's costing us money, the working people, the working class, the middle class. That's who's hurting the most. And so these chairs that we occupy, they're not our chairs. They're we the people. okay? That's the chairs. These are the people's chairs. But if the country keeps going like it is, we the peasants, okay? And again, if you haven't watched The Big Short from the 2008 housing crash, you might want to watch it because there's going to be another one, all right? Dr. Michael Berry, he's actually a doctor, an MD, but you need to catch up on this, okay? Because I just think that there's so many things being done wrong with phony economics, phony banking. I think medicine, God bless them, we need good medical care. But, when I had a medical procedure recently and I got a bill, which they got an insurance for, and I'm looking at this bill going, wow, $30,000 for a ride to the hospital, when I had COVID, what's going on here? Back in the 60s, a woman could have a baby for like $56, okay? So, again, I just see things kind of get in the way, and I'm hoping and praying that we can look at where we've been and where we're going and try to get back to some real freedom and not some of this nonsense that's happening. So, again, I appreciate y'all putting up with this little talk, and again, it's just hard to see what's going on in the country. And
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Item N, parish presidents, department heads, directors, or managers' reports, presentations, and/or updates. Item number 23, Amanda Vosland with CZM and Scott Graham with Ducks Unlimited to provide a project update.
Hey, Amanda Voisin, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana. I'm here today with Scott Graham and Leslie Suazo with Ducks Unlimited. We're here to do an update on the completed and upcoming restoration projects that we have in Lafourche Parish that came to be from our partnership with DU. I'd also like to give you all an update on how these projects fared post-IDA. As a little background, our partnership goes back to 2013 when the parish teamed up with DU to go after a NACA grant. That's the North American Wetlands Conservation Act. And we were able to construct phase 1 of the Bayou Lourdes terracing. Since that time, and thanks to the continued support of the administration and the council, we have been able to provide both funding and project support for our terracing program in Lafourche. Because of this, we have been able to construct over 35 miles of terraces since 2013. That number is going to increase to over 55 miles once the projects that Scott is going to talk about are constructed. No other parish has had this level of success that we have had in the amount and frequency of terraces constructed, and it's because our partnerships have found, through the partnerships, we have found a way to get these projects funded and constructed more efficiently than most restoration projects anywhere else. So with that, this is an overview of the projects and their locations that we have constructed with DU since 2013. Most of them are, the majority are on the Terrebonne side and the Bully Camp, Golden Meadow, Island Road area, and then we also have a very large project in the Bayou Lourdes area on the Barataria side. If you want, sorry. So this is the list of some upcoming projects that we have within the next probably year and a half that Scott is going to go over. So the first one that I want to talk about is the Golden Meadow Marsh Creation Project. So all of these aerials are actually post-IDA aerials. This is so you can see the containment area where the Golden Meadow Marsh Creation Project is. It's 115 acres. It kind of looks like a sideways elephant, I think. But as you can see, I mean, considering the amount of, I would say devastation, but storm surge and whatnot against the levee, it held up pretty great post-IDA. And Bully Camp is an area north of the Golden Meadow Marsh Creation, kind of around Basin Boat Launch in Golden Meadow. So this was actually our most recent project on the Terrebonne side. It was in 3 phases. The first 2 photos are the northern fields that held up pretty well. As you can see, the one on the right, that was constructed less than 2 months before Hurricane Ida hit. It didn't really have time to settle or vegetate, so that area was messed up pretty bad. But I think it was just the amount of time that it was built in relation to when the hurricane hit. So Bayou Monet Terraces, this is directly south of Bully Camp. It's in between Golden Meadow Marsh Creation and Bully Camp. I mean, for the most part, you know, these projects are proving to be very successful. We like to put these projects against the levee, provide more storm protection for the levee, and as you can see, you know, they're, you know, with the exception of some of the outer terraces, they're still there. Golden Meadow terracing closer to Point of Shin. As you can see, they held up pretty well. Island Road terracing, this is on the Lafourche side in Point of Shin. You know, I was surprised looking at the aerials to see them hanging on. I know Point of Shin got a considerable amount of storm surge during the storm, so still there. And then Bayou Lures on the Barataria side. So this project is actually, we just completed phase 4. It's wrapping up this month. You can kind of, on the right side where you can kind of see the more, I guess, brown terraces. If you zoom in, you can actually see the dredges there. So they're actually, this is a very current aerial, and as you can see, still there. And these terraces are kind of, the purpose is to provide protection for the Bayou Lures Ridge. So with that, I don't know if y'all have any questions about any of the terraces for post-IDA, but Scott is going to be talking about some upcoming projects that we have in Lafourche.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Balzan? Mr. Melvin?
I just had a quick question. Most of the things I know were going on in Point of Shan, but around Mr. Lorraine's district, I'd like to think on the Golden Meadow side of Grand Bayou, which is the bayou that goes from the launch in La Rose all the way to Catfish Lake and further,
Yeah.
okay, so to speak. Some of this stuff's happening on this side too, like around where you launch your base-ons?
Yeah, so let me go back to the overview.
I just want to make sure I heard that right, because
Yeah,
a lot
so-
of stuff I was hearing was Point of Shan.
Yeah, no, Bayou, on the Barataria side, Bayou Lures is, you know, on the other side, but you can see Island Road, Golden Meadow, and then Bully Camp, Bayou Monet, and Golden Meadow Marsh Creation. We actually have the Grand Bayou Freshwater Reintroduction Project, which would send an increase in fresh water to those areas along Wendell's Levee. So, you know, there would be some, you know, benefit to those projects as well. But yep, they're on that side as well.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. All righty, ma'am.
All right, so Scott's going to come up and
Mr.
go over the upcoming project.
Thanks, Amanda. Scott Graham, 125 South Park Road, Lafayette, Louisiana, 70508. So I'm going to be talking about some of our upcoming and ongoing projects that we have here in Lafourche Parish. If I can find the slide. There we go. So these are the Port Fourchon terraces that we recently funded through a NIFWIF grant in partnership with CPRA, ConocoPhillips, Chevron, and the Edward Wisner Trust, Lafourche Parish Government, and the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. This project costs approximately $2.69 million and will deliver approximately 53,000 linear feet of terraces. You can see here there's essentially two tracks to this project, one north of Port Fourchon and one south of Port Fourchon, that will help protect those critical facilities that fund our country's energy and production. So our Southeast Louisiana Marsh Enhancement 2, also known as Pond 5, this is a terracing project that will be located south of Point of Shin Marina. It'll deliver approximately 52,000 linear feet of earthen terraces, and we expect that project to go to construction in 2023. I know it says 2022 on there, but it'll actually be 2023. This project was made possible through ConocoPhillips, the Lafourche Parish Government, Chevron, NALCA, and CPRA. Next, shifting gears, this is a little bit different project. This is part of the NERD and Nutrient Reduction Project that Ducks Unlimited is doing in partnership with the NRCS. We basically have three different legs to this project. One is filtering wetland creation. One is best management practices on agricultural lands, and the last is best management practices on cattle and grazing lands. But this project that I'm highlighting right now is a filtering wetland project that is going to be done on Nicholls State University's farm. It'll be a 25-acre wetland impoundment that will pull water from Bayou Falls through an electric pump system that will then filter out excess nutrients and sediments and release that water back into Bayou Falls. This project is just the first pilot project and is going to go out to bid for construction next month. So we hope to break ground on that soon. And we currently have 8 contracts with this nutrient reduction work that is taking place in Bayou Falls, and hope to get some more soon. Last, I want to tell you about a project that we've partnered with the Lafourche Parish Game and Fish Commission on. Ducks Unlimited has partnered with them to design and permit these restoration features. We have 3 different features that will take place in the Lake Fields area. One, on the north side of Lake Fields, will be a vinyl sheet pile weir that will divert water and sediments, not allowing it to go directly into the lake. There will also be a sediment trap near there at the intersection of Company Canal and Bayou Falls. And then there's going to be another sheet pile weir at the intersection of Bayou du Mar and Lake Fields. What those will act to do is enhance water quality through reducing suspended sediment loads that can allow more submerged aquatic vegetation to grow that's more conducive for habitat, fish and wildlife habitat. And then the last feature at Lake Long is going to be at the intersection of Lake Long and Company Canal Bank Line. There will be an earthen bank repair structure. That's all I have. I just want to say thank you to the Lafourche Parish government. It's evident that Ducks Unlimited would not have as many projects on the ground as we do without y'all's partnership. So thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Graham? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to publicly thank DU and especially ConocoPhillips, Phil Preck, the king of a lot of this, and then Mr. John Harrington, who's in charge of the Homa office now, and then, of course, the lady behind the scenes, who doesn't take a whole lot of credit, but Ms. Leslie Suazo is the one who puts together most of these applications and does a lot of the legwork to help get us this funding, and it's a long-term partnership that we've been able to build that is truly starting to show some progress in the marshes of coastal Lafourche. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Otay.
Just a quick question, the weirs at Bayou du Mar and at the entrance to Lake Fields currently, is that going to prohibit boat activity from entrance into the lake at those 2 locations?
No, I don't believe so. I believe they're low sill weirs, but I can get some check on permit drawings if you'd like.
Obviously, that would be a significant issue.
Thank you, Mr. Otay. Thank you, Mr. Graham, and
Thank you.
Ms. Voisin, for that information. Moving on to item 24. Finance representative present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed upon procedures for May 2022. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You guys earlier this week should have gotten the financial reports from Renita. We did the quarterly one last meeting, so we got a few left to go before we get there, but if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Appreciate that update. Moving on to item O, questions for the administration. Anyone with any questions? Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, I talked to you earlier, Archie, about the trash being picked up. They're finally getting most of it done on the highway. And so what are we gonna look at to get down these streets? Because from West First Street, it goes all the way to West 226, not counting the 100 streets in Golden Meadow. And on the east side is First Street to 179 and below the Yankee Canal Bridge. There's plenty trash down them streets. And River Birch hadn't been coming. Usually the truck comes and helps us out, but he hadn't been there in a long time. And they said the reason why he didn't come is because we got the big trucks. I understand that, but them big trucks are not gonna pick up a lot of the trash. They won't be able to get down them streets. So just think about that and see what we could come up with, because there is plenty.
The big trucks got down there the first time, so we know they can get down the streets.
Not all of them.
You have 12 trucks that are all in South Lafourche that have probably spent the last 2 days alone down west or east 123rd picking up a certain person's commercial, semi-commercial debris. So there is a lot. right? And River Birch is running, I think they're running, what, Lockport or LaRose North now? So they've begun, there's a few big piles on the northern end of the parish that we still have to get. We finally got to the one, I think last weekend for Mr. Melvin up around Klein Peter. That was the, kind of the road distraction, so we were able to finally get that one. We got the one up around, I think there's a little bit left, but up by J-Bar 7 Ranch Road for Councilman Otan's district. There's a little pile there they have to give, but they're down there. I mean, it's 12 trucks. When you think about it, it's a 4-hour round trip to the landfill and back.
I'm not telling you that they're not down there. I'm telling you they finally got down there. What's not down there is the River Birch truck that is able to pick up a bunch of little piles that is nowhere in sight. If he would be there, you'd have a bunch of these little piles picked up down these streets, but he hadn't been there in 3 months. Because they're saying we got the big trucks, but not every one of those big trucks is gonna go down them streets. There's no way. And that's where we at. So whatever you could do, or y'all could do, the guy with the trash and the garbage, Sam, he's doing the best he can, but I know he's got some people above him. So just think about that, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Mr. Melvin.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Dylan and the administration for picking up the trash pile that the state should have picked up. So thank y'all, it's a long time coming. I'd also like to thank the residents of Klein Peter for being very careful for navigating it for a while. Lastly, I did see the vac truck several times. Thank you, Dylan. They're getting exercise and it's working because people are calling me saying, hey, what's that truck? So, I mean, we should have painted it pink or something and add some flair. But, I mean, look, I was in my house the other day. My wife was outside. I thought I heard a tornado coming because it was cloudy. That thing, it starts to whistle. I mean, you're like looking around and thinking you're hearing rain coming, but it's a sight to see and to hear. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mrs. Chasson.
Okay, so we were told the big trucks would be gone by the 24th, so we're still in it, right?
Yeah.
Because we still have quite a few streets with debris that I'm getting calls every day for, because I think they were forgotten.
Yeah.
So we're still passing with the trucks on the street.
That's right.
Okay, second, Mr. Dillon, can you give me an update on what's happening with the Grand Isle Shipyard and West 11th to 13th?
Yes, ma'am. So they completed the survey. The engineers are reviewing that data now. We are looking for right-of-ways on 12. As we spoke about this weekend, we did find some, not in the 400 block, and we are looking at the rear of 3235 to see if there's anything there. So as soon as we get a recommendation from the engineer, we will know a path forward and then start to work on a plan.
So there's no right-of-ways in the 400 block, is
No,
what you're
ma'am.
saying? No.
No, ma'am.
We have to work on getting some?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chasson. Mr. Jones.
Yes, Mr. Chasson, President Chasson. You said we had 12 trucks down the bayou?
Yes, sir.
How many trucks total we rent? That's
13.
13. So what is the one truck left? Where is it located?
We're running everything north of the intercoastal.
Okay. Can we possibly get 2 of those from down the bayou to Marydale? Since Daniel, they can't fit down the street, they can fit in Marydale. So if you can do that, deeply appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. President, how long are your final comments?
I got 3 things, 2 minutes, I promise.
You got 2 minutes.
I sent you guys an update about 4 o'clock, I guess, maybe 4:30 from Entergy about the streetlights and their status of what they're doing repair-wise. I was going to touch on debris, but I think we pretty well nailed the last nail in the coffin on that one. And finally, I wanted to remind everybody on behalf of Christine Russell, our district attorney. Lisa sent me a note. On July 7th at 8:30, there'll be a senior sources program at the LaRose Civic Center. One was held in Thibodeau a couple of weeks ago. Host of agencies from around the parish, the clerk, the registrar of voters, giving updates on what we have as far as senior programs. There's some resource tables that'll be set up. Our community action agency and Miss Amanda Matisse did a great job at the one in Thibodeau. They'll be at the one in LaRose as well. So if you have any seniors in your life or if they're watching, they'll be more than happy to attend that event. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir, for that update. I have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams, to return to item I on the published agenda, 6 p.m. public hearing, and we'll give it about 1 minute before we get started with that. motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams, to open the 6 p.m. public hearing to discuss and obtain views concerning the program amendment for the fiscal year 2018-2019 Louisiana Community Development Block Grant Program, LCDBG, Marydale Subdivision Sewer Treatment Improvement Project. This project received a grant amount of $1,160. The target area... Oh, here we go, $1,160,000. The target area consisted of Plymouth Street, Ridgeway Street, Park Avenue, Highland Street, Carroll Street, Line Street, and the residents served by the sewage system along Ridgefield Road between Park Avenue and Carroll Street. The following item will be discussed at the hearing. Number 1, program amendment for the reallocation of $20,501.10 from the rehabilitation project activity to the sewer project activity funds. This program amendment is required due to the change in the LCDBG program budget. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item number 2, public wishing to address the council. Anyone from the public wishing to address the council on this item? Second call for public wishing to address the council. Third and final call for public wishing to address the council. Any council discussion on this item? Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, just want to say I've been getting the calls, but we don't have anyone in the audience to address the issue. So the project is completed. The smell is gone. Looks great, and we put $1.2 million total. So thanks for this council's support.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other comments? Motion by Mrs. Chasson, second by Mr. Adams to close the public hearing relative to the discussion and obtaining views concerning the program amendment for the fiscal year 2018-2019 Louisiana Community Development Block Grant Program, LCDBG, Marydale Subdivision Sewer Treatment Improvement Project. This project received a grant amount of $1,160,000. The target area consisted of Plymouth Street, Ridgeway Street, Park Avenue, Highland Street, Carroll Street, Line Street, and the residents served by the sewage system along Ridgefield Road between Park Avenue and Carroll Street. The following item will be discussed at the hearing. Item number 1, the program amendment is for the reallocation of $20,501.10 from the rehabilitation project activity to the sewer project activity funds. This program amendment is required due to the change in the LCDBG program budget. Have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams, to return to item Q on the published agenda following 6 p.m. public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow. Item Q is adjournment. On a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mrs. Chasson, that with no further business, the Lafourche Parish regular council meeting of June 28, 2022 be adjourned. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Grow at 6:02 p.m.